Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. This is Lori Smith on Blog Talk Radio. It is Monday morning, 6 o'clock a.m., Calgary, Alberta. It's April the 12th, and I'm happy to be here. This is One Child Abuse Survivor to Another, and we are on for 30 minutes live. It's a live internet streaming radio broadcast from blogtalkradio.com. And so I'm just happy to be here. We're going to be looking at the Survivor to Thriver workbook. We're on step 16, quite a ways through the workbook. We're almost finished, actually, and it's been a great experience. I think that workbook is really awesome. You can pull that up yourself. I found it at the ASCA, the Adult Survivors of Child Abuse website. It's a Morris Center program, and it's at www.ascasupport.org, and that's ASCA, SUPPORT.org, and you can pull up that workbook. It's a free workbook. It's a free download, and they don't mind people using it, and they hope people will use it. Adult survivors of child abuse, and there's a whole section on safety first. It's like I think it's nearly 34 pages long, and it's huge. Their whole idea is that all survivors of child abuse really are all healing at different stages. Excuse me, have gone through different things. And so they suggest that, if you're going to do the workbook, that you do the safety first chapter first, because we want to make sure you're safe enough to do the workbook. That's the whole idea. They want everybody to stay safe and actually progress, at a good pace for themselves, right? Not get too far ahead of themselves in their healing process and the journey, right? And so, you don't want to regress and be triggered and regress back in your, backwards, right? We want to just move forward at a very slow, steady pace that's comfortable for ourselves. So I really suggest everybody read that Safety First chapter if you're going to listen to the show. It's a long chapter, and it's very important. It does ask a lot of questions. It gets you to sort of see and acknowledge where you are in your healing process. And so I think it's so important. So if you haven't come very far in your healing, as far as your healing journey goes, then you might want to just turn the show off and just go and check that Safety First section out in this Survivor to Thriver workbook. And if you're young, this is not a professional show. I don't hold any professional counseling certificates or therapist certificates. This show is not meant to replace professional help. I'm just bringing information out to people that I find is very helpful, as I'm a survivor of child abuse, and I walked out a lot of my healing on my own, and now I'm searching material because I'm a student, part-time student at MRU. I'm still registered. I'm not hooked up with any courses because I can't afford to go right now. But I'm working on a degree, and I'm taking some time off. And, I study child rights, human rights, and I'm really an advocate for child abuse prevention, child abuse awareness, and I really believe child abuse is not talked about enough, except for what we see in the papers, which is, children are dying at the hands of caregivers and parents and sexual predators and whatnot. And I think that we just don't hear enough about child abuse, and because it's pushed under the carpet, nobody wants to hear about it, nobody wants to talk about it. There is a handful of people that are, and thank God for those people. But the more people know what's going on out there, and the more people are educated and become aware of what is reality, the more the likelihood that something will be done about this, and we can really stop child abuse and then really help to prevent it. It's the only way it's going to happen. If it stays in silence, no one is going to hear about it. No one will care about it. And I just think that every single one of us has a duty, really, to help protect children. Children can't protect themselves, and so even if you don't have children, like myself, you have to do whatever you can in your own world, and really with your own resources, because everybody has limited resources. But just to become aware and educated on the signs and symptoms of child abuse, and also how to report child abuse, and just be on the lookout for all the kids that are in your world to make sure that they're not being abused. And if they are, you need to do the right thing and report it, because child abuse is an epidemic. It's actually kind of escalating. They're not sure if it's just because there's more people reporting it, or if it's just because the situation that's going on in society right now, which is horrible. There's a lot of problems. People have a lot of drug addictions, mental illnesses. You see the reports in the paper, and we all see it, and we know it's happening. And there's so many issues surrounding this whole thing. So it's going to really be up to individually to all of us, really, to make a difference in this and change this for children, and make it, so that no child has to suffer at the hands of a parent or a caregiver or some sort of child sexual predator, right? So we really have to do our part, and so I'm glad to be a voice and just be on here adding my voice to everybody else's voices to say we have to stop child abuse. And so that's why I'm doing this show. And, if you're a young person under the age of 18, I just ask that you have someone listen to the show with you. It's so important. I fight for child rights and child safety, and I think that, there's so many crazy people out there trying to get a hold of kids online, and they'll use all kinds of manipulative ways to do it. So you need to become aware and educated on what they do to get a hold of children so that you don't fall prey to a child sexual predator. You know what I mean? It's so important. So if you're listening to the show and you're under the age of 18 or younger, you want to make sure you have someone listening to this with you, and they can actually see if it's okay that you should be listening to it, first of all, and also for help, right? If you're not quite sure what I'm talking about, because if the subject of abuse is very sensitive, and it's also a very scary topic for people who haven't heard about it. So you want to make sure that maybe, if you had questions, you would have someone who you can ask these questions to, like a teacher or counselor or someone in your life, a parent or someone in your family who you trust, and, they're just there for you. Excuse me, then they can help you with these questions, right? So important. So I just ask everybody to listen at their own discretion. The subjects of abuse are very sensitive, and we all have to be responsible for what we listen to. So please listen at your own discretion. And if the topic bothers you, you have to turn the show off. You won't be hurting my feelings at all. And so I'm going to get right on with this. We are looking at the Survivor to Thriver workbook, www.ascasupport.org, and we're on step 16. That's where we left off. It's on page 103. So we're getting close. We're getting towards the end here. This would be for people who are really worked, through a lot of their healing process and gone through a whole lot of it and actually are feeling quite good about it. This is a healing section, right? So step 16, I am strengthening the healthy parts of myself, adding to my self-esteem. So I'm just going to read right from this page. And you can pull this workbook up. You don't even have to download it. You can just go to that website and you can pull it up and actually look at it and read along with me. I usually add my own stuff in there too, but just so people can see what one survivor's view of it is. You know what I mean? So, sorry about that. My voice is terrible this morning. So, in step 16, you will continue the process of strengthening the healthy, adaptive parts of you that you first developed during childhood and later fortified in the early steps of your recovery. Your task now is to begin to organize and consolidate these healthy parts into an integrated, positive sense of self. As you refine this sense of self, you will find that you are more flexible, balanced, and adaptive with respect to your thinking, your emotions, and your actions. And these are personal strengths that you can live with on a permanent basis. So yes, that's great. While strengthening the healthy parts, you will also need to continue to resolve any feelings remaining from the past, especially those that make you susceptible to resuming old destructive behaviors. You probably have noticed that feelings related to the abuse last a long time. Although you probably have more resources, internal as well as interpersonal, to deal with these feelings now, certain situations can still evoke them. By now, self-sabotage should be an infrequent occurrence, as you are now aware of old patterns and able to stop yourself before you actually commit the destructive actions. And likewise, you are better able to control your aggression, as you have refined new ways of coping with these feelings and learned to avoid or diffuse old triggering situations. So I guess this chapter would probably be for me, because this is just about where I'm at, because, I don't have the same problems with as far as like wanting to self-injure and wanting to end my life. 3 years ago, just a little, maybe 3.5 years ago, I was just sitting around really in a pit of despair again after I had already pretty much thought I had forgiven everybody, walked my healing process and whatnot, and then all of a sudden realized I was back at square one, sitting on the couch thinking, this is all happening all over again, and the same feelings came back, and that was just about 3.5 years ago, but I have done a whole lot of healing since then. So I'm probably just about here right now where I know what triggers me, and I know how to cope with it a lot better than I used to. And that's because I've built in some coping mechanisms, and also I have some support that I didn't have before. And this support has just recently come around, the last 6-7 months. So it's huge. it makes a huge difference to have some support. That's why I always suggest getting, I didn't get a counselor or a therapist or anything like that, and I really should have. I just can't afford one. And I just can't afford anything right now. I really can't even afford to be doing this show, but I'm doing it anyway because I find it's very therapeutic. It's helpful for me, and I like to pass the word on and get the news out, right? But the thing is I got into some adult survivor groups, adult survivors of child abuse groups, like web support and online groups. And these people have been so supportive. I met a lot of friends through that, and also just friends that I've met up with on Facebook. And these people have been so incredibly empowering to me because they are really, they're there for me, and they really care, and they care about all their friends the same. It's not just me. They're just caring people. And so I ran into some really awesome people. And so, I would wish that for everybody. It really makes a huge difference to know you can be honest with people and, find people you can trust. I think it's so important to have someone in your life who you can trust and who can help you get through this, It's important to have that support. For so many years, I just kind of suffered along in silence. I mean, I did tell a few people, but I generally ended up losing friends if I told them because they didn't really know how to deal with it. And they didn't know they just didn't know what to do, so they just kind of didn't want to be in a friendship. And a lot of them I actually sort of got rid of because I just told them to go away and leave me alone because I found that they were being abusive to me as a friend, and I thought, okay, I don't need any more abuse. I've already lived through a whole lifetime of that. No thanks. So, I chose my friends very carefully, and I ended up with no friends. So now I've got a lot of friends, and I'm so thankful to have these people in my life, So it's very important to have some support. They have some recommendations here, self-help and also professional help that the ASCA recommends. And the ASCA, they have their own chapters, like certain cities will actually host the ASCA, the Adult Survivors of Child Abuse, a Morris Center program. And if your city actually hosts it, you can actually go to these meetings and be part of the group. It'd be awesome. I wish my city had one, but we don't. But they have online support as well, and web-based support and peer support and whatnot. So I might go ahead. I will probably hook up through there. But it'd be cool to go to a group setting, an actual real meeting, an ASCA meeting, because you'd really find some support there. I tell you, that'd be great. But they have these recommendations here for self-help if you're doing this on your own, or professional help if you're working with a therapist. So I'll read the self-help portion out. Number 1, in your journal, describe both the healthy parts of yourself that you want to acknowledge and strengthen over time, and the less positive tendencies and behaviors that will plague your life today. Continue to focus your awareness on how these parts play themselves out in your life, and what you can do to emphasize the positive ones while diminishing the negative ones. So we're supposed to take a look and describe the healthy parts of ourselves, and acknowledge the strengths and stuff that we've and the positive things in our lives, and then take a look at what is still kind of causing problems, and then we can sort of work to emphasize the positive stuff, and then work to push out the negative thoughts and feelings, right, that are still there, right? Number 2, are there people in real life or characters in novels, magazine profiles, or movies who possess particular personality traits that resemble some emerging part of you? Write in your journal about the similarities or the qualities that you find so appealing. That's kind of interesting. Taking a look at people who are like real life people, characters in novels, magazine profiles, or other like actors and actresses who possess particular personality traits that resemble some emerging part of you. So write about it in the journal. So that's quite interesting, just to take a look, and it sort of gives you, I guess, a character to identify with, right? Number 3, gradually start to take on roles in your life that will allow you to use these newly developed healthy parts. Consider becoming a co-secretary at ASCA meetings or signing on for a special committee project at work. If you are a parent, become involved in your children's school or extracurricular activities, and these new roles will let you display your developing strengths and start to consolidate all of your recovery-related changes into an integrated whole, the new you that you present to the world. So that's quite interesting, because it is important to get involved, like especially once you've gotten through a lot of the healing process and everything, feeling better about yourself, feeling better about life in general. It's good to get out there and get busy and get involved with things. Maybe not too much, because we don't want to overwhelm ourselves, but I think even trying one thing out, or a couple things out, and just giving it a try to see how it goes, because we can see just how strong we actually have become, and how we can really make a difference in this world and be a part of it, you know what I mean? So important. So professional help recommendations they have here, number 1, if you continue to experience problems in your intimate relationships, this may be the time to consider entering couples therapy. With all the changes you have already made, you and your partner may greatly benefit from seeing a couples therapist, even for a brief period of time. At this point, many interpersonal problems are largely habitual and reflexive and can be easily changed with the help of a good referee. Still, because you are in many ways a different person than you were when you started recovery, you may need to restructure or redefine certain aspects of your relationship. Discuss this with your therapist and ask him or her for a referral if necessary. And as a rule, it is better for you and your partner to see someone other than your individual therapist so that the relationship work remains separate and there is minimal chance of the therapist favoring one partner over the other. Yeah, that's a good idea because it's just better that way because your own person, your own therapist really should just have that relationship with you, and then you could get into a married couples, or just a couples therapy sessions, and it would be a different therapist, and that way you could start sort of fresh with them, right? I think that is a good idea. If sexual problems persist, it says you may want to consider seeing a specialist in sex therapy to resolve old associations and fears that may have become habitual and may be affecting your relationships. You may also want to read any number of books to give you more information about these issues, right? Some survivors give up on their sexuality when they reach this last stage. It says because there are so many other positives to fill their lives now. However, it says you need not limit yourself and your partner in this area. You can reclaim your own sexuality for yourself and your partner. And, this is just as you reclaimed your childhood. If you need additional information or referrals, speak with your therapist. So I think that's a good idea, right? It certainly is. We all deserve to have a healthy life, and if you were abused as a child, it's sad, because when you're abused as a child, like I know exactly what it's all about. You're not given what you need, to grow healthy, to learn these healthy relationships. And so, and then you almost think that you don't deserve it or that it's never going to happen. And so that's why I keep saying, we do count, we do matter, and we have to really seek this life that we should have had in the first place, which was a healthy life, And because, some people start out with really good childhoods and then end up in these really bad domestic violence and abuse situations, and that can happen too, and they don't deserve it either. You know what I mean? But when you start out a child and your whole upbringing is just warped, it's hard to come back from that because you have to start from scratch. And so I really think we have to start just realizing that we do deserve to have a good life, and that we do deserve to get help. Right, and get that help wherever we can, right? Whether it's a therapist, a counselor, or group support, a friend, we have to do something because, it's pretty sad, but it's not going to land in our lap. We're actually going to have to do the work on it. And so, it's just so important to start realizing that, yeah, we do deserve a good life, It's something that really belonged to us from the beginning. That's why I study child rights. Child rights are human rights, and I study human rights, right? And, children have the right to life, first of all, which is, excuse me, everybody's basic right is the right to life. And also they have the right to health, they have the right to protection, they have the right to everything that they need to sustain them in life, which is food, clothing, shelter, education. They have the right to government, they have the right to play. And they also have the right to spirituality. They have the right to grow up in a loving, caring, nurturing home. I mean, believe it or not, these are human rights. And children, you just have to go to the UN Human Rights Convention on Human Rights websites, and you can check it out for yourself. Children have rights, and the sad thing is so many times they are taken away from them and not shown that they deserve to have a good life and they deserve to live in a safety, a safe place, a healthy place, a happy place. And parents a lot of times, like my own parents, just thought that we should have been happy with what they gave us. You know what I mean? They thought that our family should just take it and just be happy because I guess because they didn't kill us or something, right? But spiritually they did kill us, you know what I mean? Like they killed us all. And I don't condone abuse of any kind, but the thing is because they were not the people that they should have been and the parents that they should have been, I actually have to take on that role for myself and make sure that I get what I need, right? That I get safety and protection, provision, health. I have to look after myself. And so you do too. If you grew up in an abusive home, you have to learn how to actually take that role on yourself and nurture yourself and learn to love yourself, be kind to yourself, and learn to trust yourself, Then you have to learn how to trust other people and be kind to other people. You know what I mean? It's not a one-way street. And so, if you want people to be kind to you, you have to be kind to them. If you want people to treat you right, you got to treat them right. But I had a huge issue working through with trust and stuff, right? So trust was a huge issue for me. It kind of still is. If someone's abusive to me, I just push them right out of my life because I'm like, no, I refuse to take abuse. But in the meantime, I try to be open-minded and I try to keep remember that people are not perfect and that people make mistakes. I even make mistakes, right? Nobody's perfect. And so I guess, we can live a good life, but we don't have to live it in a shell, you know what I mean? And we just have to remember that we do have the right to say no to abuse. If you're in an abusive situation right now, you have the right to get out. Everyone has the right to say no. I do not want to be abused. It's just that children can't exercise that right unless they go and they actually tell somebody they're being abused, right? So it's like, and a lot of times then nothing's done about it because people don't want to break up a happy home, right? Which I always say, if a child's being abused, it's not a happy home, let me tell you. So the whole thing is we have to look after ourselves as adult survivors. And we have to do it ourselves. We have to almost become our own parents and nurture ourselves and learn how to love ourselves and love life, right? But it isn't going to happen overnight. And it doesn't happen a lot of times on our own. And I think that, I was just really extremely, I think it's because I was ready to end my life and I thought I was ready to just give up. And then I got mad at myself for thinking like that because my brother committed suicide. And I got mad at myself for even thinking that thought. And then this was a little over 3 years ago. And I thought, no way, I'm winning this fight because I'm going to go on and have a good life. The only way that if I went ahead and did that and destroyed my life in any way, whether it's just self-sabotage or committing suicide or something, that would allow my parents to win this fight. And that's what got me angry, that's what got me mad, and that's what got me up off the couch. And I thought, no way, I'm winning this fight. I'm going to have a good life. That's how I'm doing it. I'm staying here, I'm staying healthy, I'm staying strong, and I'm going to have a good life, right? That's my way of saying, that I win, right? And I wish everybody would do that because honestly, the abuse that our family went through, really, we could have all ended our lives, you know what I mean? And so it can happen. And it's unfortunate, but it does. And a lot of my family members are just in denial because they can't live any other way. They can't face it because if they did, then they'd have to face it, and then they'd have to deal with it, and they just don't want to, so they just pretend, right? But I needed to because it was killing me. It was literally killing me to know what I had in my head was truth and real, and that nobody actually cared. Not one person. So not one person in my family cares today, and they really don't, because otherwise they would be over here telling me that they are really sorry for what my mother did to me and what my dad did to me and what they did to all of us. But since they won't acknowledge it, there's nothing much I can do about that. So I have to look for that support elsewhere, and I also have to be okay with it. So there's so many issues surrounding this whole thing, right? It's not something that, it's just going to happen overnight. We have to learn kind of how to just be okay with loving ourselves and finding help where we can. If you don't have someone in your life, you need to get someone in your life. Learn how to trust people. But if they don't turn out to be trustworthy, you can just tell them to get lost. You don't have to stay in that relationship. And that's just what I do, I'm just, I don't tell people that up front, if I can't trust you, you're gone. But what I do is the minute they start becoming abusive, I just tell them exactly how I feel. And I just say, I don't take abuse from anybody. So, if this is the way it's going to be, then we're not friends. Because I just will not take any more abuse off of anybody. I just absolutely won't. I give people respect, and so therefore I ask for it in return. And so, we have that right. It is our human right. So we have to look after ourselves and take care of ourselves. And a lot of times we're not going to get that support. We can't be unrealistic about it, that our families are going to be there for us or that someone's going to acknowledge the abuse. There was a whole chapter on that. in this Survivor to Thriver workbook here. And many times it's just not acknowledged, and so we have to actually learn how to cope with that and how to be okay with that inside of our, our hearts and inside of our spirit, right? So that it doesn't just crush us, right? And that's what I've done over the last 3 years, is just take a look at it and say, hey, my family was so dysfunctional, I can't really expect them to acknowledge it. Every single one of them has something wrong with them, right? They need help. And so how can I expect them to be acting any different, right? And also, I'm going to have to be okay with this if I'm going to go on and have a good life. So I started to realize these things, right? And without the help of anybody, I just started working through it in my own mind, thinking, yeah, I want to have a good life. How am I going to do it, right? So we all have to sit down and sort of get in touch with that part of ourselves that says, I want to have a good life, and how am I going to do it? I'm going to have to sit down and start really putting it on paper and working it out, And but I really suggest getting some help, like some professional help, therapy or counseling. And I know that, I probably still will too. I'll probably go check that out at some point, especially if I ever get any money. I'm just so broke right now. But if I ever get sort of a savings going and get some help, I think that I would like to do that, because it's so important to have someone who knows how to help you. You know what I mean? Really, it's so important. So we'll look at step 17 tomorrow. And step 17 is I can make necessary changes in my behavior and relationships at home and work. That's important, and I think you can go and look at this today. It's www.ascasupport.org. You can go and take a look at all this stuff here today if you have time, and we'll get through that one anyway. And then step 18 is I have resolved the abuse with my offenders to the extent that it is acceptable to me. So there's lots of good stuff coming up. We're going to look at that the rest of this week, finish it off this week. And, it's a great workbook. I'm going to go through this actually on my own, probably in I don't know if it'll be a few weeks, because I am really busy. Probably later this summer, July, August, when things slow down a little bit. I'm going to take this workbook, actually go through it, do the steps, right? And even though most of it I've kind of walked through, it doesn't matter. I'm going to actually do it, the whole thing. And I think it's going to help me out. I really do, because this is a great workbook. I know it's been helpful just reading it and seeing it and working through it with everybody, right? It's just so good. And I'm going to get involved with the ASCA online groups as well. So I think that's just so important. And just to have any support, all support, right? So helpful. We can't get enough support. You know what I mean? I think we really need all the support we can all get. So yeah, it's great. I'm glad that you could tune in. We have about 2 minutes left. I'm the Canada Regional Director for Dreamcatchers for Abused Children, and we have a Blog Talk Radio program too called Dreamcatchers Talk Radio, and it is on right now on Tuesday nights at 6:30. So it's going to be on tomorrow night at 6:30 Eastern Standard Time, and 4:30 Mountain Standard Time, 3:30 Pacific Time, and it's a half-an-hour program, and we are expanding it. Donna Shear, the president of Dreamcatchers for Abused Children, she's also a best-selling author. She's the host, and for now, and I'm the co-host. But what she has done is come up with something that is so awesome. Dreamcatchers Talk Radio is going to be on blogtalkradio.com 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, and for 4 hours a day. But it's going to be all different hosts. So there's all these different directors and regional directors and volunteers with Dreamcatchers for Abused Children who are going to be hosting these different various time slots within the week. So we have Elizabeth Brawley, we have Tammy Tanko, we have myself, and we have Donna Shear, all stepping in to do 5 shows a week for 4 hours at different times and stuff. So you know the actual Blog Talk Radio, it's www.blogtalkradio.com/Dreamcatchers, and you can check it out for yourself. They're going to actually put the schedule probably on there, and it's going to be all updated and stuff. This is starting May the 3rd, I believe. May 3rd, Monday, May 3rd, that's when that's going to start. So I hope you will tune in this Tuesday night, tomorrow night, to listen to what Donna and I have to to say what we'll be talking about: child abuse prevention, awareness, education, and I hope you can tune in for that. It's going to be great. I hope you can tune in live, and if not, catch the archive. It's going to be some great information. So have a great day, everybody. Take care of yourselves, and remember, you can go to the website www.dreamcatchersforabusedchildren.com, and you can get all the information regarding the signs and symptoms of child abuse, what to look for, how to report child abuse, and all kinds of other related information. There's some great resources and links on there, and you can support Dreamcatchers for Abused Children just by making a donation. There's some really awesome items in the store that are available for sale, coffee mugs and different things like that, with the proceeds going to help prevent and stop child abuse. This is a not-for-profit organization, 501c3 not-for-profit organization, and they do need our help. They need your help, and they do need help to continue doing what they're doing. And they're out there making a difference, and I hope you'll join us. So have a great day, everybody. Take care. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.